Hey, photographer Monique here, Silver Paw Studio. And we're about halfway through the year. I thought I would do just a little recap, how things are going and what it's like in my studio here in Colorado right now. Forewarning, I'm going to give you actually two versions of this story, which you're probably suspecting if you saw the thumbnail. So one of the things that's popular on YouTube right now is a morning routine. And honestly, I'd never had a morning routine until this year. When I did my coaching with Jeff Shaw, we talked about all different areas of life and business, and I established a morning routine. So typically what I'll do during the week is I always have coffee with Steve in the morning. This time of year, we can sit outside and enjoy the weather and the scenery. We have coffee for about a half hour before he heads off to work. And then what I try to do is a few minutes of meditation using the Calm app. And then I write in what's called my What's Going Right journal. And then I spend about 10 minutes on my rowing machine. And during that time, I work on my repeating my affirmations and maybe listen to a podcast or thinking about what's coming up in my day. And then once I'm finished with my morning and I head down into the office, I have my whiteboard that either I fill out the night before or that day with my just top few things I need to get done that day. And then sometime in the day, I take Bailey for her walk around the neighborhood. So it's kind of like my morning / daily routine. And so looking back at this last week, things are actually starting to pick up a little bit more in my studio, which is awesome. And I had a really great photo session recently out in the prairies, about an hour from here. It was 2 horses and 2 dogs and a woman and her 6-year-old son out at the horse stables at sunrise. So it's kind of hot this time of year, and sunrise is just nice for mosquitoes and bugs and everything. So we made this plan to meet at the horse stable and get these family photos with the humans and the animals all together. And, you know, as you can imagine, that was a little bit of work, but we managed it. We took about 2 hours to do that session. And from there, I had to drive down another hour to the airport and pick up Emmy and say goodbye to Lizzie, and then head home from there. So that was a really nice photo shoot. And that was just one of 4 photo shoots I did that week. I also did a couple of volunteer photo sessions and another photo session with a high school senior and his dog, and a couple with his mom. And so that was really awesome too. One of the things that kind of was a downside this week was I ended up having to buy a new car. And so that was kind of a bummer, but it's nice to have a new car. I had to make sure it fit my wagon and that it was all-wheel drive. It's about the same size as my Subaru. The Subaru just like suddenly died, and I wasn't really planning on getting a new car for at least another year. My trusty Subaru had for 9 years, 120,000 miles on it. But you know, we kind of scrambled and got a new car. So I'm grateful that we've got this car and that we were able to do it so quickly. Another thing that happened this weekend is, I don't know if you know that Steve and I started our own YouTube channel called Cattail Chronicles, and that is him and I together going out with cameras. It's kind of a way to get us out of the house on the weekends and photographing and sharing it with everybody here on YouTube. So we're doing just a variety of different things around town. And this last week was, we had planned to go up to Rocky Mountain National Park as well. And so we did that, and we filmed actually 2 videos up there with his daughter, Emmy. And that's been actually a really fun channel. And my editor, Epic Kate, is the editor for that channel as well. So if you like the style here, you'll like it over on Cattail Chronicles. If you like Sony gear and wildlife and nature photography, go check that out. So that's kind of like a roundup of how things are going at Silver Paw Studio right now, halfway through 2021, kind of picking up and doing pretty good. And that is exactly the story I would tell if I was recapping my week on my podcast. If someone said, hey, how was your week? Or how's business going? That's pretty much what I would say. But honestly, it's as you can imagine, only half the story. Being a business owner is actually really hard. And oftentimes you only see the highlight reel. And I could just stop my story right now and edit this, and you would say, great, she's doing good. She's got a morning routine. I wish I had all of that. But you're not hearing the other side of all these things in my studio this week and my life this week. I want to tell you the other side of all of these things that happened this week, but I want you to know I'm not going to tell you for sympathy or for suggestions or because I'm trying to brag in any way. I really want to emphasize that we don't know other people's lives. We just don't. This video might be 10 or 20 minutes long out of my entire week. And the recap I gave you was only 5 minutes of a whole week. What prompted this was I was doing that. Sitting and having coffee with Steve, I was exhausted. And I said, you know, sometimes I wish we could just be like this landscape photographer, YouTuber that I know. That's all they do. Like, that's not all they do, but that's their main job, is to create these videos once a week on YouTube and go to beautiful places and take pictures. If life could just be that simple. But I really had to stop myself because I know that's a lie. You are watching me right now on YouTube thinking, gee, I wish I'd had that week, aren't you? So I know that's not true. And I know I need to stop comparing. And I'm going to implore you to also stop comparing. One of my favorite phrases, I can't remember who said it, I want to say Teddy Roosevelt, I'll put it on the screen, is comparison is the thief of joy. So whenever we compare our beginning to someone else's end or our insides to somebody's outsides, we're really robbing ourselves of the true joy we can have in our own life and our own path. So let me tell you the full story of all of those great things that happened last week. And they were great things. I don't regret my life. But I want to tell you so that you understand that it's not all roses. There are thorns. So when I talked about having to replace my car suddenly, that was actually on 4th of July, Emmy's birthday. And Emmy and Lizzie had borrowed the car to visit their grandma and get coffee and just have a fun day. And on their way home, they called me and they said, hey, the car stopped and won't go. Could you please come get us? And of course, we just threw on our shoes and ran out there. It was a typical Colorado summer afternoon. It looked like there was a thunderstorm brewing on the horizon. We got there, they were fine. A good Samaritan had helped them get the car to the side of the road. And we called the tow truck on a holiday and had it towed to the shop that I just had a bunch of work done on the car at. Coincidentally, it was a totally different thing. And I knew in my bones right then and there that the car was just dead. Yeah. We got the call the next day that there was $7,000 in repairs that would need to be done to replace the engine. And I had all these sessions ahead, like, yay, I had finally worked up more business. And so we had to scramble that day and figure out, are we going to rent a car? Are we going to buy a used car? What are we going to do? And we had to figure that all in one day, which also, incidentally, we lost an entire day with Liz and Emmy here on their vacation. So we figured it out, and I'm grateful that we were able to get a different car, but it was very sudden. And, you know, full financial transparency, 3 days before that, I'd gotten an email from the owners of this building that rent was going up 40% next month. So suddenly, in 3 days, my expenses had skyrocketed hundreds of dollars. So you could see why I needed to get to these sessions. So I told you about the session at sunrise with the horses and the dogs and the people and how wonderful it was. And it worked out fine. But that morning at 3:30, I woke up with the worst headache. It was so bad, and neck ache. And I just had to try to be quiet and still. I took some medications, and I finally felt well enough to gather everything and take the hour drive out to this session. And it was a session, the horses were being horses, the dogs were being dogs, the kid was being a kid. It was already getting a little bit warm. So, you know how you are, you roll around in the dirt and you step on stickers and the horses wander off this way and the dogs wander off that way and the kid wants to do something else. And, I brought all my skills together, and I really love challenges like this, but it was extra difficult when I had such a terrible headache, which mostly went away during the session. But afterwards I was completely exhausted, and I still had to head to the airport. And I just hoped I could make it. So I took a little bit more medication, just Excedrin, and got to the airport and thought, if anything, I'd have to have Emmy drive home. But the second set of medication worked fine, and I got home. But I'm telling you, the rest of the day was lost. I sat on the couch. I tried to sleep. I just drank water and stayed still all the rest of the day. So anything else I had planned for that day, I didn't edit photos, I didn't do any work, I didn't do. And so when Saturday came around, I felt so much better, but I had so much work I hadn't done. And so I spent all morning Saturday working. I didn't clean the house. I didn't do any yard work. I didn't spend time with Steve. I didn't spend time with Emmy. I worked. I caught up on work. And I do love my work, and Emmy sleeps in. So it worked out. But I worked, And then for our Cattail Chronicles YouTube channel, I'm just really loving that. But a residual leftover from this headache and the day I wasn't feeling well was a slight case of vertigo. And our plan was to go up into Rocky Mountain National Park and pretty much double our elevation. And so vertigo has its own challenges when you go up to elevation. And so we had planned to go in the afternoon that weekend. And all the way up until the time we left, I was not sure if I was going to go. And spoiler alert, I did go. We all went. We got some amazing footage, so check that out. If you like baby elk and marmots, you'll want to check that out. Spoiler alert. So that's coming up. So we were able to do that, and that was fine. But one of the downsides was that we didn't do any yard work. The pipe that's broken in our backyard, we didn't have a chance to fix. Steve wasn't able to work on his side hustle, so he gets very stressed. So when we have those coffees in the morning, we talk a lot about what we need to get done that week and how we can support each other and some of the stresses and things that we're going through and how we can manage that. So although, I love my time with Steve, I worry about him all the time with all of the stresses happening too. So, having the YouTube channel is a great thing to do with him, and I love it, but it also comes at a cost. And to come full circle, I talked about my new morning routine, and again, full transparency, that when I sit down to meditate, Bailey thinks that's the time to play and get pets. I try to do the rowing machine for 10 minutes, but this day I only did 5 and I was distracted. And I didn't get a chance to take Bailey for a long walk that day, just a short walk. And that week I only did this morning routine 1 time. And my goal is 5+ days a week. So all of this to really say, this is what actually happened behind the scenes. The other side, right? The other side of the story. Some of you are probably sitting there like, gee, I'll take all the thorns if I can have the roses, But again, this is just a few minute video. We don't know what other people's lives are like. We just don't. And so I really just implore you to think about that next time you think, oh, I wish I could have their life. I wish I could have their life. Consider there's so much more that goes on in their life that you don't know. You don't know what's happening in there. And they might be looking at you saying, I wish I had their life. So, there's all kinds of ups and downs, aren't there? In anything that we do, in our personal lives, in our hobbies and our careers and our jobs and our businesses. And I really hope you take this to heart as much as I do. Comparison is the thief of joy. And there's always two sides to everything. But that said, don't let that stand in the way of what you want. If your dream is to be a pet photographer, you're in the right place. Welcome. But just know you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have unforeseen financial difficulties. You're going to have clients that you never thought you'd have that were awesome. Like all the ups and downs, the roses and thorns, all of that will be in there. And, I'm here for you. As another bonus for you is I have propetphotog.com, lots of resources on there. My phone number is listed, my email's listed. You can reach out to me. If you want to tell me about your win or you want to help with one of your difficulties, I'm here and I want to help you. I've been there, trust me. And, the life that I have created and I'm embracing it. All the good, all the bad. And I wouldn't change it. I love my life. And I really want you to be able to create the life you want to. So I really wanted to give you this information, this insight today, and a little encouragement and a little transparency about what it's like in my life. So I don't come across as one of those super successful YouTubers and, you don't know everything that happens behind the scenes. So don't feel bad about your life when you have a down day and you have a day you have to sit on the couch or you have a day with a headache. We all do. We all do. Okay. So I want to really connect with you on that level. I don't really know how to end this, but, I'm glad you're here, and comparison is a thief of joy. There's always something on the other side, all right? You've got this, okay? And as always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATSs.